My cat. I don't
When
know. I had this cat here. It was the cutest damn cat you ever seen, but it ate the cable. It ate right through it.
did you say it was the cutest cat? He's still with us, isn't he?
I mean, maybe, but
Maybe.
it's the cat. The cat went home to the owner. Let's just say it that way. Okay, the
I got
cat's
you.
safe. The cat is safe in this story.
I got you. Hey, Rob Brown here with you on this Tuesday morning, May 6, 2025. Brendan Martin down, executive producer in Ocala. Great show. Jordan Hill batting in the leadoff position, 24/7 Sports, covering Georgia. 13 draft picks last week. They're reloading. Kirby's going to keep that machine going, and Jordan's going to tell us about it. Wil Gunter checks in after that from Columbia. And then Yancy Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline, Rodney Orr, Tider Insider. We'll talk about all 16 of the great SEC schools. And look, take your cell phone, take a picture of the QR code. We're live streaming on X, YouTube, Facebook, and Brendan, tell them about this awesome channel that we're building. You are the maestro, the Thomas Edison of our time.
Thomas Edison of our time. No, we're just gotten a lot of great podcasts that we are cultivating and putting in all one spot for you, so you don't have to flip around and try to find it. We got great podcasts with Kevin Skarbinski, the Buddy Martin Show, this show, Auburn Undercover. What am I missing, Rob? Lauren Meadows. Duke Scoops, Lauren Meadows tonight. We're got a great lineup. All talking all Gators, the softball stuff that's been going on. Got SEC softball tournaments on fire. Buddy Martin's going to talk about that. I mean, we got it all right here, and you just got to go to this QR code on X, or you check out the YouTube one that I'll flash up here for you. Subscribe to that. It's totally free, and you will get access to all this great information. And that's all I got. So we are loaded up in the green room. Let's get right to it, because we like these guys and we want them to come back. Jordan Davis Hill from Dogs 247. What's going on, dude?
Up in the Classic City.
Guys? You got it, guys. Always something to talk about. What's going on?
Hey, and I agree with what Brendan just said, and I do too. You really do. You put out content, and I've got fans that and friends, that come to me, and they're living all over the country, and they're going, that Jordan, they really, really like your work. So, hey, man, this is your deal. We're going to put the ball in your hands. Start out with any news right now that you're writing about. I hate the term breaking news.
Inside information, and I want it now, Jordan.
Yes, because Blind Squirrel Sports.
What is happening right now, and I want you to give it to me only, and Rob, that's it. Nobody else gets it. Don't put it on your website. Give it to me now.
Y'all acting like y'all are Dogs 24/7 subscribers. I love to hear it.
Hell yeah. We love Dogs 24/7. Bring it on.
No, I mean, the biggest thing today, guys, big commitment for Georgia on Monday night. They get 5-star quarterback Jared Curtis. This was a recruitment that I think came down to the wire based on everything we had seen. He's a guy that had been committed to Georgia last summer, decides, look, let me take a step back. Let me reconsider all my options. And credit to Kirby Smart, Mike Bobo, and the entire Georgia staff. I mean, they stayed with it. They let him, figure out what he wanted to do. It came down to Georgia and Oregon. And in the end, Georgia gets a 6'4", 225-pound quarterback out of Nashville. A guy I really like. I'm going to have a breakdown of his tools a little bit later this morning. And, I'll give a shout-out to my coworker, Ben Wolk, who had talked with his quarterback trainer. And his trainer compared Jared Curtis to Josh Allen of the Bills. Now, he's got a long way to go. I think the biggest thing is his level of competition in Nashville, at a private school is not what he's about to face in the SEC. But got great arm talent, athletic enough that he can run if he needs to, but I wouldn't call him a dual threat. But this was the top guy on Georgia's board. This was the quarterback Georgia wanted, and it came down to the wire, but they beat out Oregon, and they've got their quarterback in the 2026 class.
That is huge. And which school in Nashville?
It is Nashville Christian School, so they're coming off a state title. He played great last season, but again, the biggest knock or the biggest concern from what I've seen is just how he'll handle that step up in competition once he comes to SEC. I mean, he has made plenty of plays there, and I expect that'll be the same again once his senior season gets underway.
That's out there, I think, on the Harpeth River. I've been to that campus. It is spectacular. It's really, really a nice. I bet they're playing. I'm sure he's playing the 7-on-7s with all the kids from Brentwood Academy and MBA and all those places. That's a huge get. That might be the biggest get out of high school 5-star since Matthew Stafford out of Highland Park, Texas, back in '06, who I think might be one of the best quarterbacks to have played ever at Georgia.
No doubt. And from what I've seen, I think Jared is the highest rated commit for Georgia since Matthew Stafford at the
Okay.
quarterback position. And, the question now, as long as everything goes smoothly and they hold on and they sign him, it wasn't that long ago. Georgia had Dylan Raiola. At the
Yeah.
same time, I think that they're in a good spot with Jared Curtis. I don't think he came across this final decision lightly. And now the kind of question is what they do around him. And I wrote about this on Monday. You look at when you get that quarterback, you kind of want him to be the Pied Piper for your
Yeah.
class. And the guy we're watching now is 5-star offensive tackle Jackson Cantwell. He will commit on May 13th. And pretty much as soon as Jared Curtis committed, Jackson sent him a tweet like, hey, congratulations. And of course, everybody picked that up. So it's going to be a fight to get Jackson Cantwell. Oregon's involved, Miami's involved. But Georgia has put itself in a good position. So let's see if Jared Curtis becomes that number one recruiter, maybe not the number one recruiter, but a guy in Jackson Cantwell's ear trying to convince the Missouri native to come down to Georgia.
All right, next question. Georgia made a significant upgrade with running back Josh McCray out of Illinois. He looks really good, just what I've seen of him on tape.
Yeah, shout out Enterprise High School. Anytime we can talk about a kid from Alabama, I'm going to shout him out. And yeah, he brings Georgia something that I think they needed and something they did not have last season. He's more of a power back. He's a guy that'll bounce off tacklers. Still has enough speed to turn those into big plays. But I think he's going to be the number 2 back for Georgia this season. A veteran back. Nate Frazier's sort of that lightning, that fast guy, that number 1 back, but I think that was a really heads-up addition by Georgia. A veteran back who wants to prove that he is an SEC caliber back. Played really well at Illinois last season. Was really big and then beating South Carolina in the Cheez-It Bowl. He wound up being named the MVP of that game. So, like you said, Rob, I really like that addition of Josh McCray. I think he will get a lot of carries this season and be trusted, especially on those 3rd and shorts. You give a guy the ball who is not a small back and is going to push through tacklers. And the biggest thing that I enjoyed watching his film, he just keeps the pile going. He turns like a 4-yard run into like an 8-yard run, just dragging guys. And I think when you got that skill set, you're going to find a home and a lot of reps at Georgia.
Oh, no question. The big red wall, offensive line at Georgia, that's been a staple for the Kirby Smart era. Give us an update, any comings and goings in that department.
Yeah, they are breaking in 4 new starters compared to last year. And the one guy that's back, they've moved from left tackle to right tackle. That would be Ernest Green. So,
Okay.
you look at the spring portal. They did lose one guy. They lost Marquise Easley, who transferred to Purdue. Very interesting. Georgia's had several guys transferred to Purdue these last few years, and they had 3 guys this spring. Marquise Easley, Nitro Tuggle, a receiver, and then another receiver, Michael Jackson III, all wound up going to Purdue. But no, I think they're in good shape. They were a little bit banged up in the spring. The starting left tackle did not participate in spring practice because he was coming off a labrum repair. And then they had the starting right guard get hurt, but he's expected to be in full health by the time fall camp gets here. So the offensive line is one of the big questions for me with this team. I think this team is poised to play really well and to be a championship contender, but a lot of questions on that offensive line. They've got the talent, but have the inexperience. Can they step up to the challenge and play really well?
Jordan, how hard is it for you to do the 2 deep depth chart compared to 7 or 8 years ago? I mean, because the line of demarcation in this statement is October 15th of 2018, when the portal became the law of the land. It's difficult.
Yeah, and you got to kind of keep an eye on what's going to leave Georgia and what's going to come in. It's one of those things where it's always fun trying to fill out the depth chart. And the biggest thing is, it's so much harder for a coach like Kirby Smart to be thinking a year down the road, 2 years down the road of, okay, we're going to sign this guy. He's going to be a backup this year, but maybe next year he'll be a starter. If not, he'll be in the 2 deep. You can't really count on that anymore. And I think that's something that especially guys like Kirby who have been in this profession as long as he has. That's a very drastic change to when you knew you could count on, back, 10, 15 years ago, you'd have a few guys transfer, but it wasn't, nothing compared to what we see today. So it makes it a lot harder. And, anytime you look at a position and you feel like Georgia has depth, if you bring that up to Kirby Smart, he's going to be like, "Oh, we don't have depth there. We don't have any depth there." And other teams will kill for the depth that Georgia has at most positions, but it's still very, very drastically different than it was a decade ago because of how easily people can leave.
Yeah. My good friend Paul Wickenheiser, we call him the Burgermeister. He used to live in Atlanta. Dog fan from the womb, is watching right now. And
we're gonna do a reality show with you, Rob. We're gonna go meet Burgermeister.
He's a great
all
guy.
These guys. I don't Burgermeister. Here,
Brendan,
get in the chat room, okay? Please come in the chat room. Yes, sir.
Brendan, are we sure all these people are real? I don't.
No,
I need to see them. I need to see them in the flesh.
Here's the thing. They are real because if you go to the where were we?
SEC Media Days.
SEC Media Days. I roomed with Rob for 2 days. They're all real. They're all there, and they're all fantastic, and they're all exact. And sometimes, Jordan, they text me out of nowhere, unbeknownst to me. No one's told me the text is coming in, and then we become great friends. Yeah. So like I have all these people I've never met in my life, and they're all Rob's friends. So shout out to Shoney. You know who you are, brother.
Yeah. And the Wickenheiser.
I know more about these people than I know about some of my friends. So they're all real, and it's all a thing. I don't mean to digress.
No. They're fascinated by what does go on in the show. And Jordan,
they don't come to the chat room. So I know.
Paul will text me, but he won't get on the show. But he's out in Reno, Nevada. He's from Atlanta, but lived in Memphis forever, but moved out there about 12 years ago. But also want to ask you.
One day we're going to make a list.
I'm going to get him on the show.
We're going to have we'll get him on the show. Hey, I wanted to ask you, Jordan, real quick. 13 guys in the NFL this year. Is that right? 13?
Yeah, 13.
Wow, that's a lot. You were talking depth. We were talking reload. Is that just? Does Georgia become more of a place where guys obviously want to be, less affected by guys leaving? Do you see that sort of trending more, in the future? Because what someone put out, like top 7 teams or something like that, there's like 40 million, or something like that are going to be like at that point, at some point, it's like, obviously Georgia's going to be in that bunch with, you see that like being, not a problem for Georgia as much as it is for other teams. Is the money going to be there?
Yeah, I think they're in good shape. It is going to be interesting to watch like the rest of this summer because, we're all kind of watching as these teams operate under the notion that, rev share is going to be put in and that they have to deal with that. But at this point, that settlement has not been approved. So we talked about this on our podcast the other day where it's a weird situation where it would be totally different if this sport was just starting up and like, all right, we're building a roster from scratch and we're dealing with rev share and we have that implemented. You're talking about a situation where you've already got a roster of, 100 guys and you're trying to implement rev share and you're trying to work through NIL deals that were already set up. So, I think Georgia's in good shape. I think they feel good about where they are. And I think that they're in a good spot, I think, after this Jared Curtis commitment where they know they've got their quarterback. They sort of can factor in what that looks like because there's a lot of concern, at least from Georgia fans in recent weeks of, okay, we have gone this far chasing Jared Curtis. He's already decommitted once from Georgia. What happens if he winds up going somewhere else? What do we do to pivot? And, that's sort of like a supply and demand thing where if you're a quarterback Georgia's chasing, I just watched somebody go off the board that you guys really wanted. I mean, that you would think that could have upped the asking price. So I think that makes things easier for Georgia in terms of the 2026 class. But again, just a fascinating time with how they're kind of navigating what the rev share might be, while at the same time that settlement has not been approved. So they're still kind of waiting and watching.
Yeah. One more question before you go. This is from Blind Squirrel Sports again. Where does Georgia stand with running back Xavier Crowell from Alabama? I've heard he has been leaning toward the Tide for a while. Is that Isaiah Crowell from Montgomery, from Jeff Davis's brother or relative? Because he did go to Georgia. Isaiah did.
He did, not to my knowledge, because I know our guy Ben Wolk has asked him
Okay.
about that. I don't think they're related. Xavier's not a guy at this point I'm watching for Georgia. There's a few other guys that they've really targeted.
Okay.
Derek Cooper, a running back from Florida. Savion Hyder, a guy that I think we might have as the number one running back in the nation right now. There's another guy, Jay Lamar, from Colquitt County in Georgia. He's, I think, the top-rated running back in the state of Georgia. Right now, my projection would be that they get Derek Cooper and Jay Lamar. So Crowell is not a guy I'm watching right now for Georgia. Like Blind Squirrel mentioned, I think Alabama's got some momentum there. But Georgia's swinging for the fences with running back this year. They kind of missed out last year. They got Bo Walker, who's been really good, but they really went hard after Usmani Croma, who wound up going to Florida State. So I think that Crowell's a guy they've shown interest in, but they got a few guys in front of him at this point.
Jordan, look, thank you always for coming on. If in your next life you'll be an attorney, I want you as my attorney. You are always prepared, and you put out content. Let people know how they can follow you and what you'll be writing about. And I watched your podcast the other day. It's cool. It's very good. It's a lot of information packed in about 58, 59 minutes. It was really good.
I appreciate that. Dogs247.com, on Twitter at Jordan Davis Hill, on Twitter at Dogs247. Got that podcast, the Junkyard Dogcast, wherever you get your podcasts. And we're also on YouTube, Dogs247. So going to write about Jared Curtis this morning, watch some of his highlights from the last couple of years. Going to write about that. Going to start working on some profiles of these true freshmen that are joining Georgia. Just mentioned Bo Walker, hoping to have a story on the running back later this week. So fun time of year, and appreciate you guys having me on, and enjoyed catching up.
And also appreciate the retweets that you give us every time you're on. And let us know what we can do to help you. But we'll see you next week. Thanks, Jordan.
Sounds great, guys.
Okay. I'll tell you what, Brendan.
Oh, Rob, you went out of nowhere. That's okay. Hi, I just wanted to do that. We're just playing Hollywood Squares.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, look, you're over here now. There you go.
Okay. Moving around. Hey, Jordan, that thing about Crowell, that's a big thing about. I like your question about the NIL. 40 million, whatever. It's
pretty awesome.
Something's happening. Let's bring in Wil Gunter, 107.5 The Game. Will, appreciate your patience. Wow, look at the hat. Oh, that's a Braves hat.
Braves hat. Yeah.
Okay.
They're hot. They're hot.
I was thinking,
so yeah.
Arkansas.
Dude, I do have a Carolina pullover on, if that matters.
All right, I know. Thank you for your patience. And let's talk Carolina, man. We have Coach Ellis Johnson on the show yesterday. He comes on every week from Winsboro, South Carolina, and he's going to a lot of Clemson practices, but he coached at Carolina. There's a lot of synergy right now with Lenore Sellers, Shane Beamer getting to 9 last year, and the Carolina fan base saying we should have made the playoffs. That's not apathy, which will kill a program. That is passion. Let's talk about the team in off-season, spring practice, transfer portal, whatever you want to tell us.
Yeah, it's been interesting because I think you're actually watching the maturation of a coach and of a program because we've gone here from kind of doing really kooky, funny, neat off-season videos. They did the Full House parody and did the Office parody, but I think they've done a better job, in my opinion, of kind of toning things down. There's going to be a lot of expectations on them this year. And this occurred 2 years ago when they won 8 games and went to the Gator Bowl and lost to Notre Dame and had Spencer Rattler coming back. And at the time, Juice Wells was coming back, and there was a lot of players that were expected to be part of a really good team. And they ended up going 5-7 and not making a bowl game.
Yeah.
And then you come back last year and you win 9 games. And I think Todd McShay yesterday put out a podcast that had him talking about Lenore Sellers being the top quarterback drafted in the 2026 NFL draft. I've seen him in a couple other mock drafts being up there in the top 10. He's kind of one of those dark horse Heisman candidates. They've got some good young wide receivers. They've recruited exceptionally well on the offensive line. They do have to replace a lot of guys on the defensive line, but they've got some transfers in. Gabriel Brownlow Dindy from Texas A&M, who had a very good spring, was a former 5-star recruit, and Monkel Goodwine, who was a former 4-star recruit who went to Alabama and couldn't quite get on the field. And of course, we know about Dylan Stewart there. So, there's a lot right now of energy around here. It might have been sucked away just a little bit by how the spring game kind of played out.
Yeah.
It was an odd year. The SEC also put out the rule where you could either do the 30-minute infomercial or they would televise your spring game, and South Carolina chose the little infomercial. But because of the way the spring game fell and the way things are around here, the spring game was on a Friday night. South Carolina baseball, who has fallen absolutely apart, was in town that weekend, and you were coming off of the Masters. You were on RBC Heritage Weekend, which is a huge deal here in the state, and also it was Easter weekend. So I actually think it's been probably pretty good because to me, they've kind of been able to fly under the radar locally, and you don't have too many people, I think, saying, hey, you got to win 10 or 11 games. It's playoff or bust. But that's definitely going to be the mentality when we definitely get to August.
Will, Roman Harper was on the show about 3 weeks ago, and he was talking about Lenora Sellers. He said what really stood out with him was images and just memories of him last year being tackled on the way down, so strong and athletic, successfully completing passes. You don't see that very often, do you?
No, but he really developed as the season went along, because we wouldn't have been saying that in September and even the early part of October when they went to Tuscaloosa and played. He kind of found his groove, gained confidence. The team gained confidence in him, and you saw that specifically in the Texas A&M game and in the Missouri game. I think it's going to be interesting for him in terms of improvement. I see one of your buddies there, Blind Squirrel, asking about improvement for next year. And one of the things that stands out is they do have a new offensive coordinator in Mike Shula. There was a lot of people who were not particularly thrilled with how they elected to use Lenora Sellers in the bowl game against Illinois. A lot of people thought maybe that he was instructed to run less, to keep his eyes downfield and pass more. So I think that is something that we're going to keep an eye on. They will open with Virginia Tech on a Sunday afternoon in Atlanta. I think that'll lead into a really good, I think it's Miami and Notre Dame, maybe on a Sunday night. I can't quite remember.
What a day.
Yeah.
That's some good football.
I'll have to go back and look at it. There's a game Sunday night already scheduled, but I will I'll look that up here real quick. But yeah, in terms of his development, that's definitely something he has to do. But there are definitely people around here who are expecting big things for him and from him to carry the football team early on.
Looking at South Carolina's defensive front, how much coming and going has happened since last year? Because you had some good big guys last year and lost some close games, but damn, you've got your quarterback returning, but it's all about the supporting cast and on the line. This is the line of scrimmage league.
Yeah, it is. I mean, they've done well in the transfer portal. Obviously, Dylan Stewart, the former 5-star freshman who was really good last year, is going to be the headliner. But what you just mentioned is right. 3 of those defensive linemen got drafted pretty highly. Kyle Kennard, Tonka Hemingway, and T.J. Sanders went in the second round. Boogie Huntley was another depth piece that did not get drafted. I think one thing that we talk about this league, and we watched it specifically. Now, obviously, it helps when you got the defensive end award winner. I ain't going to bother saying it right now, but Nardruski, I got it out. But the bottom line is, when you lose him, and they did, and he was not a guy that people were thrilled about in the transfer portal. They knew it was a good pickup, but they looked at it from a depth piece. Well, he ended up being one of the best defensive ends in the conference, and again, has been drafted by I think the Chargers or the Rams. But you're right, you got to replace all those guys. But I think one thing we learned last year is you got to have depth. You got to have a legitimate 3 deep at defensive tackle. Now, your third guy might only play 8 to 10 snaps a game, but those 8 to 10 are valuable to get your top line guys rest, so that those top line guys don't wear down late in the game.
All right. Running backs. Everybody used to have the goal of a running back that could go 35 or 40 carries a game. Now it's like the guys are asking the coaches not to give them the ball too much. 12, 15 times a game is a big load. How deep is the running back room, and who are some names we can look for?
It's in flux right now. Matter of fact, Shane Beamer was speaking in Charleston last night, and he's a little upset with the NCAA. They brought in a transfer, Rasul Faison from Utah State,
Yeah.
and he has not been cleared just yet. And Shane Beamer, he did go through spring practice. They're expecting him to be cleared, but I mean, here we are sitting at the beginning of May, and he would be the expected starter. They don't have a Rocket Sanders right now that you can turn and look to. Oscar Attaway is a quality maybe second or third back. Jarwan Howe is another guy that they like. Young guy. He had some fumbling problems last year. It looked like he was set for a pretty big bowl game and had a pivotal fumble there going into the end zone. They pulled him out. We didn't see much of him. And then they've got another freshman in Matthew Fuller. But it's a huge question mark. And not having Faison right now, not knowing his status is a big deal. And again, Shane Beamer last night at a Gamecock Club stop was not happy with that. Kind of expressed his disappointment that, hey, this has been going on now for 5 months since January. You know, how hard is this to get an answer? And I do think the interesting thing is, guys, if you get Rasul Faison eligible and you pair him with Oscar Attaway, and I want you to listen closely to what I'm going to say here, South Carolina might have the oldest backfield in football, not college. They might have an older backfield than most NFL teams. Both guys would be 25 years old next year.
God, that's impressive. 7 years of college, man.
Wow.
Tommy boy.
I don't know the math on that. I hadn't thought about it until I just said it out loud in front of y'all. But
yeah,
they may have the oldest. They will have one of maybe the top 10 oldest backfields in all of football, not just college. But it is imperative they get him eligible. That the NCAA gets that ruling done kind of ASAP.
Yeah, Rocket Sanders out of Rockledge, Florida, after leaving Arkansas. He's a big one. I don't know what he's going to do in the NFL. He did his rehab in Dallas when he played for Arkansas, and I don't think they were happy with that. But I mean, I just looking at the running backs in the past, we could name 5 or 6 stud running backs in the SEC, and the Clearinghouse. Remember that nightmare?
Yeah,
looks like it's popping up. That's hard to believe. Okay, another one. Let's talk with basketball. What is Carolina doing? I mean, Lamont Paris is, last year they have a really good team. This year there was a drop off, but they lost a lot of really close games. And you know as well as I do, and Brendan and everybody with a gray matter between the ears knows, a couple of players in the portal changes everything.
Yeah,
can change everything.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I tell you, there's not. We just talked about the excitement for the football team.
Yeah.
It's not there for the basketball team. They were probably about average in the transfer portal. They did get Michi Johnson back. They got a guy. I'm not even trying to pronounce his last name. We're calling him Mongolian Mike, but haven't been around the transfer portal. When you've played, this is your 4th team in 4 years.
Yeah.
That's a red flag for me. He's been at Dayton, San Francisco, and was at Utah last year. Now transfers to South Carolina. They just lost Colin Murray Boyles, who will be a lottery draft pick. That Cam Scott was a very highly rated player coming out of my hometown, my high school, Lexington, and did not live up to the production and the expectation for him last year. He entered the transfer portal, has elected to come back, but he's got to take some strides. They do have a young man that is on these Under Armour commercials, Eli Ellis, who was really good in the overtime elite, but I'm really interested to see how his game translates to the SEC. I think that's going to be important. So certainly we can talk about it. I got to run. I apologize, guys. That's what I was texting. I got somewhere I got to be. My son, unfortunately, 2 weeks ago tore his ACL.
Oh,
And
man.
13 years old, playing in a basketball game.
Wow.
He's got some prehab. We're trying to get him ready for surgery, but
man.
yeah. So
Gotcha. Look, prayers for him, man. And we just had Dr. Andrews on. We talked a lot about that. That's serious stuff.
Thanks for coming on, Will.
Yeah, thank you. Let's do it again next week and let people know how they can follow you.
Yeah, man. You can check me out on Twitter at Wil, WIL, 1L, _Gunter is how you can do it. And I think I've been on vacation, so I haven't tweeted in about 7 days. It's been kind of nice. I'll be honest. It's
good to get a break.
Nice.
Yeah, go take care of your son, man. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Boy, Brendan, that would be, the ACL on a 13-year-old.
I know. I'm
long time to recover, though. It's a good thing for him.
I'm dealing with that right now with Stella, and it's not good. So tell us about Winter Timber.
Winter Timber, man. They're in Athens, Alabama, open 7 days a week. That is every day of the week. Let them know you heard about them on SEC Sideline Sports. Their goal is pretty simple: to provide you with the best gear, everything you need for hunting and fishing, outdoor sports. They've got it all. They're building a 13,000 square foot store, the new one in Auburn on University Drive, expected to open this summer, late July, early August. But they've got everything that you need: the clothing, Sitka gear, duck camp, Dixie decoys, all your everything Yeti makes, coolers. Turkey season is wrapping up here. Snake boots, fishing gear, and the St. Nick's knives, man. Great stuff at Winter Timber Outdoors in Athens, Alabama, soon to be in an SEC market near you. Brendan, when we talk about these injuries, Dr. Andrews, when we talked on the show and when I've talked to him, it's these kids, too many of them are specializing and they're not taking enough time off. One guy that knows this, he's got young'uns, as they say down here in the South, chillins. Yancy Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline. Catch it Monday nights at 6 p.m. Sports 56, WHBQ in Memphis, and Super Talk Mississippi, all over the great Magnolia State on Monday nights at 6. And guys, he is connected to Ole Miss. He is to Oxford what William Faulkner is at Roanoke, his house. They live probably in the same neighborhood. Yancy, how you doing?
Doing great, guys. How's it going?
William Faulkner Porter. I mean, Yancy Porter. By the way, Brendan, if you go to Oxford,
I wish I had his money.
Yeah, Brendan, if you go to Oxford, that's one of the most coolest towns. I go down there probably 15 times a year for stuff. Roanoke is Faulkner's. It's beautiful. It's like time stands still. And the square, the whole atmosphere down there, they've got everything. They just had double decker. But right now, Austin Simmons, answer this one. I've had more people say, that guy's awesome. He played one series against Georgia, and several people have already got him sitting in a chair with three other guys in New York in early December. But let's talk about the quarterback room. Dart's gone, and I think he's going to have a really good NFL career. By the way, several years ago, you picked Dart over Jake Altmaier, the backup quarterback out of Starkville, Mississippi. You said he's more of that gunslinger mentality that Lane Kiffin likes. Just like you said before anybody else said it, Yancy, don't be surprised if Chris Beard isn't Ole Miss's next basketball coach. And by the way, you were right. Why would he go to Indiana when he can stay at Ole Miss? Why go backwards?
Well, I think with Simmons' situation, he's been at Ole Miss 2 years.
Yeah.
And so he's not just entering the system and trying to learn the offense and teammates and all of that good stuff. He's served his time, and I think he's ready to go. I think he's going to be really, really fun player to watch. I think what kind of gets lost about him is his legs. The guy can really run, but now he's not a guy that is looking to run. He's looking to throw the football. He's not going to be a dual type quarterback. He's going to be a drop back passer, but he can really escape pressure. He's got the best arm I've seen at Ole Miss in many years. He's got a chance to be special.
Well, you look at Ole Miss offensive and defensive lines last year, and you've chronicled the development on the defensive line for Ole Miss like very few people chronicle any team's development. You had 12 defensive linemen they could trust. Walter Nolan among them. A lot of them are gone. How deep are they going to be, or are they going to be deep on the defensive line? Because if you don't have that, you can't really talk about playoffs, but something tells me they got it.
I think they have 9 right now. Last year they went in with 12. They're not quite as deep, but I think 4 or 5 of them got a real chance to play at the next level.
Okay. All right, offensive line. That's another key area. If you've got 8 offensive linemen that can go, interchangeability is a term that's quite often used. Like everybody knowing everybody's position. Your left guard goes down, a guy can pivot over there and play that position. How deep is the line?
I think that's a great question. Unlike the defensive line, where there's a lot of guys that will probably playing in the league and they're feeling really good about the backups. I think the offensive line is just unproven. We'll see.
Yeah.
A lot of portal transfers. Um, some guys that have been in the system for 2 or 3 years, ready to take over. The good news is they do return their two starting tackles. That's always going to help.
Yeah.
They couldn't be any worse than they were at the center position last year. So hopefully, just by deduction, it's an addition there.
Talk about the center position. Everybody knows the center is not
Oh,
usually the best athlete or the biggest guy, but he's the quarterback of the offensive line.
he's the smartest guy.
Yeah, he's the
Well,
smartest. Yeah. Brendan's
Bryson
right.
Sanders, he's been at Ole Miss 2 years, kind of like Simmons. They came in together. They both have been running second string,
Okay.
so they kind of grown up together. And he is a big guy. He's 6'6", 315 pounds. He's got an offensive tackle type body,
Wow.
but
Yeah.
he's playing center. So we'll see how that goes. But they think he's going to be really good, but he's just inexperienced, and that's the way the interior of the Ole Miss offensive line. They're going to be very inexperienced.
Well, 6'6" center. Usually center is 6'1", 6'2". And by the time they finish their career, they're 5'10", but they're getting pushed back on so much. Wide receivers. Ole Miss has had some great wide receivers. A lot of first 2-round guys the last few years. Trey Harris last year was one that came in, but he couldn't necessarily stay healthy. Who you
Yeah.
got in that department that maybe we don't know about?
Well, you got two guys that transferred over from Oklahoma State and Penn State that they're really really high on. Obviously, you returned Caden Lee from last year, who
Yeah.
was probably the glue of that bunch there on the wide receiver. Um, you got a transfer over there from Alabama, Caleb Odom, that they feel like
Okay.
has a very high ceiling. They're deep. I would say that probably wide receiver is their deepest and most talented group, and we'll probably continue to say that throughout Lane Kiffin's era at Ole Miss.
Got to run the ball.
Yeah.
Running back room. Who you got?
Yep, that's probably their most improved position from last year. I would say would be running back, yeah, man, it was well documented. With Quinshawn Judkins leaving Ohio State. Why they didn't play Bentley more last year, nobody knows. Henry Parrish got hurt. They played up third string punt returner against Florida for all the marbles, which will probably go down as the most curious coaching decision in Ole Miss history. So but they feel really good. They got a transfer in from Missouri, Lacey, that they recruited very heavily out of high school. He was a freshman. He had even a better camp than everybody was expecting this spring. A guy that he's a guy that could go 80 anytime he touches the ball. You still got Logan Diggs that was hurt last year, that transferred
Yeah.
over from LSU,
LSU.
that didn't get to play last year. He's fully recovered. And then they got Shaquille's Knight, running back, 6'2", 225-pound running back. That's a freshman, a true freshman from Chattanooga there at Baylor, and they think he's a future star. So they feel really good. That, like I said, that's probably their most improved position going forward next season is at the running back slot.
Well, there's the movie years ago, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, whatever that was about, but it was a funny name. Then there's the curious case of Ulysses Bentley the fourth last year, barely played. He comes in against LSU on his first carry. He goes 51 yards right up the gut. Touchdown, Ole Miss.
Yeah, first carry of the SEC season, as
Yeah,
a matter of fact.
yeah,
and then,
yeah.
and
That
then
was
he
really weird.
explodes. He
Yeah,
explodes against Georgia. The next week against Florida,
yeah.
they decided to bench him, and he didn't play one snap. And they played a third string kickoff returner who had never played running back at Ole Miss. So it was, and he got all the carries in that game. It was a very puzzling. I mean, Lane wasn't trying to lose the game to go to the playoffs. We all know he was trying to
Yeah,
do everything he could to win. But obviously, that decision, maybe he tried it to outsmart himself, even.
yeah.
It backfired, obviously, at Florida. They didn't have any running game, and Florida just pinned their ears back. And, you wish he could have a do over, but hindsight's 2020.
Yeah, it is tough in the SEC if you can't run the ball and you go on the road. You don't want to get behind, and you're not going to run your way out of that jam. Looking at Ole Miss, let's get the temperature of Oxford right now. You had 100,000 people there last week for double decker.
120. The
120,000.
broke a record
I
Saturday.
mean, and I'm sure there was some dancing and some drinking and just some wildness going on down there. And that's what it's all, guys.
What
Folks,
was that, Rob?
it's called double decker.
You had jazz hands when you did that. Drinking. You get extra Southern when Yancy comes on.
Well, because he's from
It's good.
Hattiesburg.
Turn up the.
He thinks as soon as you
little.
say Mississippi, he's ready to go.
Hey,
He's ready to travel back 100 years.
Woo!
Well,
Jazz hands.
yeah,
Woo! All right, Bobby.
No, but look,
Get 'em on down here to Cherry Farm.
listen, I was down.
Down in
last week in the
he's
Delta.
drinking now. Here we
found
go.
this
Down
is
in the
new
Delta.
whiskey. Yeah, and I went to Helena, where my grandparents are from, and I met some people for lunch, and we went and got a tour. We went to King Biscuit Barbecue down at the end of Cherry Street for the festival. We went to the Delta Dirt Distillery, and I got some 106 proof, man, made with sweet potatoes. I'm just going to say that.
Wow.
But you know, Brandon.
Brandon.
No, Brandon is here in Parkin, but Brendan.
God, you scared
Brendan,
me.
when you think about it, when I talk to people down in Florida, I say you need to come up to the South. But now Brendan lives in Ocala. That is the South. I mean, Gainesville is as Southern as Mississippi or Alabama is. But Yancy and Rodney, it is.
We're still Florida twist down here. I mean, we're not the South, but I'm from Colorado, so let's not talk about that. But I know who. But Rodney Orr is from the South.
Yeah, and Rodney has joined us now. Grew up in Mobile, lived in Corpus Christi for a while, came back, and in 1996 put on his crimson checkered houndtooth cape and started Tider and Cider in 1996. It's only $48 a year, folks. No matter where you live in America or anywhere in the world, we got some people that watch this show.
I'm going to get you your own theme music, Rodney, because this is the longest intro in sports. So go ahead, Rob. Go ahead. No, Rob, keep going.
No, but I've got people that watch this show all over the place. They go, Brown, we're watching the show in Costa Rica. So, Rodney, you got a lot of fans, as does Yancy and Brendan, and we're very blessed to have you on this show. And tell us what's going on. Let's get our $48 worth.
There you go. Well, God, that's the worst music ever. But next time I'll get better.
It's the Sidelines Garage Band.
Yes, the garage. Keep it down, boys. Keep it down.
Wayne's World.
Sorry, Rodney.
Rodney, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Apparently lost our minds.
We're just excited, man. We've been talking with Yancy about Ole Miss. Let's hear about what's going on in Alabama, getting into year 2 for Kalen DeBoer. 7 guys taken in the draft, but they got a ton of talent. And by the way, Alabama still leads all college football programs with nearly 70 guys on active NFL rosters.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they had, two go in the first round. Obviously, Tyler Booker to Dallas. I think it's a really good place for Tyler, and it's a great pickup for Dallas. But then obviously, Jihad Campbell went 31 to Philadelphia. I think he would have gone higher. There was a few injury questions with him, but again, a great fit, man. I think that's really what you look for when you're a player, and also when you're an organization making selections or a college program recruiting. You want to get the right fit. So you talk about Kalen DeBoer in that regard, and a lot of people are talking about the portal, of course. Alabama didn't have any go in the portal in this spring portal period. They picked up a couple of guys, as you know, a couple of tight ends. They're doing it a little bit like Dabo. I'm not going to say to that quite extreme, but they're doing it, and then we probably talked about this, a little bit different, just kind of contrast to what they're doing at Ole Miss. Kiffin's taking a different approach, but other than that, Rob, there really hasn't been a lot. I know Alabama basketball seems to have missed out on some guys in the portal. Nate Oates usually has a plan, though, so we'll see what he's got up his sleeve.
I got a question from Blind Squirrel Sports. Big Georgia fan, but he's going to follow the Tide as well. Rodney, who replaces Jihad Campbell at inside linebacker next year? Can he be replaced that easily? I don't think so.
here's the thing. I think it's obviously with Deontay Lawson coming back, he missed spring practice with injuries, but with an injury, he'd injured his knee late in the season. But he'll be back. That's great news. Justin Jefferson, former JUCO player from Mississippi. This guy is about 6'1", chiseled at about 225. But here's the key. Literally, he's been timed sub 4.4. He's got great, instincts. He's extraordinarily fast, obviously. He gets an extra year because these wacky rules. The junior college guys are getting an extra year.
Yeah.
So he'll be back. That's those two returnees are really key there. Of course, now let me throw this at you. They got Nakai Hill Green transferred from Colorado. He's also been at Charlotte. He's also started at Michigan. So he's been around. He made 82 tackles last year at Colorado. He's their leading tackler. I think he had 11 and a half tackles for losses. So that's a big addition. So who replaces Jihad Campbell? I mean, those guys are going to be really good. Those three that I mentioned, but they'll certainly miss Jihad.
Yeah. It's really interesting. You talk about they got two tight ends in the portal, and Yancy, I think you would agree, and Brendan, everybody stockpiles tight ends like these commercials you hear about food that'll last up to 25 years. I'm not going to invite anybody over. How about some 15-year-old sirloin steaks tonight, Rodney? Come on over. But you talk about that tight end position, and why can't any team in the SEC unleash the tight end? Why? I mean, Evan Ingram several years ago at Ole Miss at 6'3", 228, the hybrid is the best example I've seen. But Rodney, it's
watch Josh Cuevas this year for Alabama. I think if he keeps his health, the Boars last year at Washington, their tight end, I think it's Jack Westbrook, caught like 46 balls, something like that. So he caught his share. They really kind of divvied it up quite a bit, between their receivers and tight ends. But I think if you, Grubb being here now, their year in the system, obviously a different quarterback. I think you might see the tight end come alive a little bit.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I mean, first of all, I was a tight end. So
Yeah.
let's start there. And they're incredibly important to the offense because they're versatile.
Yeah.
They can block. Well, obviously, there's multiple tight ends now. It's not like it used to be. I think it's easy to shut down the tight end. I think that's why the tight end position is difficult in the SEC. I've always said that. I think we got great guys on the edge in the SEC, and their job is to hit you hard and then, leave you dead, and then go find the guy if they're going to run, or stay home and take down the outside and play their position. But I got beat up by many of defensive end coming over from Colorado, and just perspective coming into Florida high school football, which was interesting. And I just a little side anecdote of not being ADD, but I think we always see a team that, in my opinion, that guys that pay attention to positions like tight end, pay attention to things like defense. These are things I think that are core sort of values in the SEC, Rob, that we've talked about over history. Yeah. And it's difficult to be good at that position in the SEC.
Yancy, I think that is he shed a lot of light on that position. You're right. We have edge rushers down here that are faster than a lot of conferences outside of the SEC's skill players.
Yep. It's a critical position on anybody's team. And Brandon makes a good point there about the athletic.
Yeah, about the athleticism of the edge rushers.
Of the defensive ends. And
yeah, well, the bugs got him. But Yancy, come back in with us. You're talking about the athleticism of the edge rushers and makes it tough for a tight end, and we lost you. So here we go.
Yes. Can you hear me clearly now?
Tommy, can you hear me? Yes, we got you.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, just, Brendan made a great point there about the athleticism of the edge rushers in the SEC, strong side defensive ends, the rover safeties that are big and strong and fast. And it's hard for the tight ends, but you get a good tight end and they can make a huge impact on anybody's offense.
It is, and think about it, Rodney. The SEC. Look at the talent. And by the way, you talk about Washington. They're tied for 11th among all colleges with most active NFL players with 38. They're tied actually with Southern Cal. That tells you that's a Kalen DeBoer came from a pretty damn good program.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, the guy that was his predecessor, Jimmy Lake, was a great recruiter. He's a good defensive coach. But DeBoer took over a 4-8 program,
Yeah.
and he turned it around quickly. And you do that because you got good talent. And obviously they went 25-3 in 2 years.
Yep.
So we'll see.
Yeah. I think, in my opinion, people want to criticize DeBoer's record and say he won at a smaller level. To me, if you can win at a smaller level with limited resources, the question is, what can you do at a place like Alabama with unlimited resources? And Yancy, I think about Lane Kiffin, how happy that guy is. People always think he's going to leave. You're making $9 million a year in Oxford, and your family's all moved back. What's not to love about that?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of it too is just maturity of just personal growth with Lane within himself, and we all know that he quit drinking a few years ago, and I think that really just kind of escalated the maturity growth rate of him as a person, and he's comfortable now in his own skin, and he said that he never was, until these last few years. So, like you said, his whole family, even his ex-wife, has moved to Oxford. His brother lives next door to him. His son's moved here. He's probably going to be the start quarterback for Oxford High next year's a freshman. His daughter goes to Ole Miss. He's in a good spot in his life right now.
Yeah, no doubt. Rodney, what's going on at Alabama? I'm going to ask this to you and then to Yancy before we wrap up. What's going on at Alabama that we're not hearing about that we will be and that they can read about on Tyler Insider, those forums? Because, man, that is those forums are active, and there's a lot of really cool discussions on the Tyler Insider forum.
Yeah, well, last week I told you I really don't follow the ticket sales. You ask about that.
Yeah.
So I got you a quick answer. There's a
Okay.
waiting list. There's a waiting list.
Okay. I kind of figured that, Yancy and Rodney.
Yeah, there's a waiting list, and that's really the answer that was given to me. I know that one time they said there was over 32,000 on the waiting list for season tickets.
Okay.
Now I don't know if it's still that number, or close to that number, but at one time, yeah, it was around 32,000. So you gave me that for homework last week.
Yeah.
And that's your answer.
Well, I'll say the same question. That's impressive.
Impressive. You did your homework.
That's
well,
a
Rob
great
scolded me a little bit, Brendan. So.
No,
wow.
No, Rodney, far be it from me to be. Listen. Brendan keeps me in line. He is so.
Oh, yeah.
He keeps
focus. Focus.
But I will say this, Rodney. That's super impressive, and that's 32,000 people. People are.
Now I don't know if that's the number now, Rob. Let me be clear. I mean, at one point there was a few years ago. So I don't know what the waiting list is now. I just want to be clear.
Okay, but I bet you it's a lot.
Hey,
what about it?
Before everyone goes, great QB and tight end combinations. If you think about this, right? And championships, great teams.
Yeah.
You got Tim Tebow, Aaron Hernandez. Anybody else want to chime in before I rip off a few?
Well, I'll tell you this: since we have Yancy on the phone, Brendan, or on the show with us, Lane Kiffin, what he did with O.J. Howard. In that 2015 national championship game against Clemson, and OJ's an extraordinarily gifted tight end, but they hadn't really used him, and he ends up over 200 yards receiving, and has a couple of long touchdowns in that game, and had a big play on a third down. So yeah, Kiffin really utilized him with Jake Coker.
A great player out of Autauga, Alabama, over in Elmore County near Wetumpka and Lake Martin. What a stud! 202 yards in that national championship game. Yancy, where was Evan Ingram from?
Georgia. I think Powder Springs, Georgia, if I recall correctly. I think Powder
McEachern High
Springs.
School. Yeah.
Yep. Ole Miss feels really good about their tight end slot. Daquan Wright came on last year, the last half of the season. He returns. He was actually a portal transfer from Virginia Tech. And they feel like they got a really good one there at Arkansas that transferred over from Luke Holtz. So they think they got a really good 1-2 punch there at tight end this year.
Well, the bottom line is somebody's going to figure out this tight end thing. Brendan made me think about that. Yeah, everybody wants to have the tight end, but everybody also has those edge rushers that are just, in the past, those guys would be tight ends or some of them even offensive skill players. They've just gotten so big and fast. That's the scary.
All great quarterbacks loves their tight ends. I mean, there's just combination after. It's a key component to exposing, a defense of being able to freeze those guys on the outside with the play action and hit that guy over the top. It just is. If you can do that, is as basic as it is in football, and it's one thing that just crushes you when you can have that at your in your arsenal. It makes a big deal. Plus, you got a guy that can block and. I look, big Broncos fan, Shannon Sharp. I mean,
Yeah. Oh God.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
He just dominates.
It slows down the pass rush.
Yeah.
It freezes. It changed. It really is the difference. I think is dominating a defense.
Well, Stetson Bennett the fourth had him a pretty damn good one at Georgia. I mean, and he's doing really well with the Raiders
Arthur
too.
Lynch and Aaron Murray are pretty good. I mean, it goes on and on and on.
So, Brady and Gronk. It's another one. Yancy Porter. Man, awesome stuff.
LSU.
Rebel Yell Hotline. Rodney Orr, Tyler Insider. Thank you both so much. We're going to wrap up. Try to keep it under the 60.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, both.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody have a blessed day. Thank you.
Same to you. We'll see you next week. Awesome stuff. Love your take on the tight end, Brendan. Man, that just made me stop in my tracks and go, hell yeah. But look at the edge rushers. Everybody wants to do things.
It's what you teach. It's what you teach. When you're going to get beat up. They're going to try to freeze you. That's just the way it's going to be. And you got to learn to get free, and you got to learn, you got to learn to fake it out too. Shoot, we used to fall down. Look at the jump pass.
Yeah.
It goes on and on. We can't talk. We can have a whole show on tight ends and how important.
And we're going to do it. And we're going to learn about this AI too. Hey guys, let me say something about Landers Ford. A lot of news right now. Ford Motor Company, the tariffs and all. Get out there. They'll work with you. They're giving employee pricing to customers coming in. Landers Ford, where Memphis meets Collierville, Poplar and Houston Levy, open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day except Sunday. The 25 Expeditions are in. The Ford F-150. I think it's the number one selling truck for 40 years straight. They've got them all out there. They'll work with you on trade-ins. They're great people to work with. Ask for the GM, Brad Bellamy. They're involved all over the Mid-South. All you CBHS people are listening and watching. Just remember, Tom Nick Stadium, Landers Field. Look what they've done. We got over 15,000 alumni at Christian Brothers High School in the Memphis area. Well, really all over the country. And they do a lot. Landers Ford does. Great people to work with. And they're right down the street from Hewlett and Dunn. We're going to have a little get-together about 6 o'clock Thursday night. Just come by Hewlett and Dunn. We'll have, refreshments and all for you. We're going to just get together and talk some college football, get to check out the store. 6 o'clock this Thursday, Hewlett and Dunn on the Square in Collierville. Check out the great selection of boots. I was in there yesterday. I got these great earrings, polymer clay earrings that J.M. Huffman's mother makes, and they are really cool. Brendan, got you a pair of badass boots. They're on the way. Wild Boar.
No way.
Yeah, they're on the way. I got lucky. I got 11 and a half. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Mother Teresa said it best.
I'm going to have like a boot unveiling.
Yeah, show them on the show. Mother Teresa said it best. We can all do something. We can't all do everything, but we can all do something. Go make something great. Help people
out.
Go
be a great. Go be a Gator. Go Gators.
See you tonight on the Buddy Martin Show with Lauren Meadows. The Lowdown with Lauren Meadows, 9 p.m. Eastern.
Go Gators.
Thank you. Thanks for watching.
Good night, John Boy. trying to play Hollywood Squares with him. Bye, everybody.